This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Power Hour. It's June 27th, the last Monday of the month. My name is Isela Bonada. I am a consultant and mentor now with Powur. Welcome, welcome everybody, whether you're new, you're a mentor here on the platform. We're going to get started today, and we're going to start with our Powur affirmations. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here. Pull them up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit the unmute button. I'm going to say the first line first, and then you're going to repeat after me. Is everybody ready?
Ready.
Ready. Awesome. Okay, go ahead and unmute yourselves. So, okay, so these are the solar hero affirmations. Number one, I am a powerful solar professional.
I am a
Powerful solar professional.
Number two, I do business morally and ethically.
I do business morally and ethically.
Number three, I am a successful, intelligent, and confident.
I am successful,
successful,
intelligent,
and
confident.
Beautiful.
Number four, I do not depend on luck or unrealistic possibilities.
I do not depend on luck or unrealistic possibilities.
Number five, I am making a positive impact in the world and in the lives of others.
Now making a positive
impact in the world and in the lives of others.
Number six, I radiate with confidence and people feel that.
I radiate
with confidence and people feel that.
Number seven, I am building a renewable energy empire.
I am building a renewable energy empire.
Number eight, therefore, money comes easily and frequently and in increasing quantities.
Therefore, money comes in frequently and increasing quantities.
Awesome. Everybody, take a screenshot of this. Make sure you save it. Say it in, wherever you want to say it. When you wake up in the morning, when you're taking a shower, when you're driving, save it on your phone as an image. And
I love it.
Get to say your affirmations on a daily.
Love it.
So with that being
That's
said,
111.
so now I'm going to ask all of you guys to please mute yourselves so that we don't hear any background noise. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here on Power Hour. It's every Monday at 10 a.m. And, again, I have the pleasure of working alongside the number one recruiter for Mentor for 2021. It's been awesome, a privilege to learn on a daily from this mentor. Again, he's a family man. He started like all of us door knocking, from sunrise to sundown, basically. Became the number one as a non-solar pro, became the number one recruiter and mentor of Powur. He declared it. And so, he did. He walked the walk and talked the talk, right? And so with that being said, I'd like to introduce JC Rangel, who is going to lead us today on this Power Hour. And he's going to be talking about in-home presentation. JC.
All right. 1 second.
I'm going to mute myself.
All right, can you hear me, Salah? Good. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. If everybody can hear me, please give me a thumbs up. And we're going to get started. Stay co-host, great, thank you. Ramsey, appreciate that. All right, so here's a couple of things I want to do before we get started. Let me open up my camera here. All right, good to see everybody. Bunch of good-looking people. I told Isela, listen, only let the good-looking people into this meeting. We don't want non-good-looking people in this meeting. She did a great job because only good-looking people are on here. So I appreciate you guys, with the exception of one person in here. You know what I'm saying? With a Solar Hero shirt and stuff. But it's cool, man. It's cool. We'll let that guy slide. All right. Nah, man. I'm happy to be here with all of you guys. I appreciate that. And we're gonna get started. We're gonna have a very, very productive week. But here's what I want to do. There are some mentors that I text for you guys to come on here. So I want to make sure that you guys are ready for later on, because we're going to be introducing you guys and getting everybody to see what you guys are doing. So I'm going to get into the homeowner presentation. I'm not going to do the homeowner presentation altogether, but I am going to go through and explain a couple of slides, and I'm going to go into the mindset of what I'm trying to do in a homeowner presentation. The reason why I say I'm not going to do the homeowner presentation, just because I have a lot of them recorded. They're in the university. They're in the Solar Heroes Academy. So if you want to see a live presentation done by myself, they're already recorded. But I want to get into this presentation and just kind of go through a couple of things. And there's a lot of new people. There's a lot of you guys that are moving on to the being able to, tier 2s and tier 3s. So, we want to do this. And one of the things that we're going to be doing very soon is we're going to be doing an in-person and a Zoom presentation training. It's going to be a homeowner presentation training, but it's also going to be a presenters training, how to be a better public speaker, right? And so, some of you guys know that's part of what I do, right? I've been doing public speaking for a long time. So if you want to be a better public speaker, I definitely recommend that you guys attend that training, and we're going to hit 2 birds with 1 stone. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. So I use a slide deck, and here's the thing, guys. My philosophy on building a organization, to me, it's building an organization first. That is a primary thing for me. The reason why that's a primary thing for me is simply because if you look at the top mentors in the company, they have organizations, right? Or they're a part of an organization that allows them to close a lot of mentor deals. Okay. So I tell people, look, there's 2 things that I accomplished I'm very proud of last year. Number 1 recruiter and the number 1 mentor in the company. Now, here's the thing though. How did it happen? Here's the way it happened. It happened, I became the number 1 mentor because I was the number 1 recruiter. It wasn't the other way around. I use the number 1 mentor now to recruit, but I did become the number 1 mentor because I recruited so much. And so when I do a presentation, I'm all about systems. I'm all about how can we make this duplicatable? Okay. So I was taught through a PowerPoint presentation by Jonathan Brunasso. He's actually the gentleman that did my first couple of mentor deals, him and a couple of other folks as well, but mainly him. And it fit right in line with what I was doing because I already came from using PowerPoint presentations in my network marketing career. I always use PowerPoint presentations, and we said, this is a PowerPoint presentation that we use. We don't veer away from the system. And by the way, Isela, let's make sure that we let the people in the waiting room in. Thank you. And we don't veer away from this, right? Now, do you have to do it with a PowerPoint presentation? No. We've got some incredible mentors on here that they have some very high closing ratios. They don't use this. They have their own way of doing it. This is what I learned, and this has created some of the top mentors in the entire company, including myself and a lot of people in my organization. Not only that, it is duplicatable. Here's my philosophy. Remember, we're talking a lot about philosophy here and why we do the things the way that we do. The reason why is because I personally don't want to have a mentee that I say, go, here's a list of mentors. Use one of these mentors. I vouch for these mentors. SolarHeroesTraining.com, my academy, you have the list of mentors. And so I say, use these mentors. But if they go to one mentor and that person uses a PowerPoint presentation, then they use a different mentor for another deal, and they don't use a PowerPoint presentation, they just kind of wing it, they just use a proposal, then they go to another mentor and that person does it a different way. Well, the mentee didn't learn as much as they could have learned because it's a bunch of different presentations. So to me, I like to, now on my Solar Heroes Academy, I made a list of the people that are using the PowerPoint presentation that are certified in my book, in my eyes, that I know that are doing the presentation the way that I know it works. Here's the thing. You want to know how I sold 116 deals last year? It was this presentation. I just mastered the mundane. That's one of the things you're going to hear me say a lot, and I recommend that you understand this. You need to master the mundane. So whether it's in person or it's via Zoom, as a rule of thumb in sales, they tell you to build some rapport, and I agree. I think that a lot of people in solar, they tend to, especially via Zoom, I think personally, this is a personal opinion, that it's a mistake to build a ton of rapport. Build a little bit of rapport, ask how maybe they know the mentee, ask questions that are relevant, right? I just dropped the podcast episode this morning at 9 a.m. on attributes of self-made millionaires, right? And one of them is charisma. And so your charisma coming along and finding out some information about the homeowner before you get into that meeting definitely helps. So I only do about 2-3 minutes of quick conversation, and then I get into the presentation, right? So let me move you guys out of the screen here so I can see my screen better. So I basically let them know, okay, we're going to do this presentation because what we want to do, Mr. Homeowners, we want to find out if solar is the right fit for you. It's not the right fit for everybody. So we're going to look at your bill and we're going to look at your property and see if this is indeed the right fit for you. Does that sound fair enough? Customer says, yes, that sounds fair enough. Awesome. Let's get started. So I'll get started. And I explained to them with this slide here that we're going to be looking at their utility bill. And with that utility bill, we're going to figure out, number one, how much electricity they are using. And the way that we figure it out is through their kilowatt hours. We also want, in addition to figuring out how much electricity they're using, we want to see what you are paying currently per kilowatt hour. Now, I'm going to get into this in the proposal later. The reason why I do this, and by the way, we have an incredible training by Mr. Luis Perez, who's one of the top managers in the company. He does a full presentation. It's already recorded. You guys can see that. This is more of an explanation of what's happening. When we look at a homeowner's bill and when we size a system, we need to see how much electricity they are using, how many kilowatt hours they're using yearly, and what they're paying per kilowatt hour, right? If when I get to the proposal, if that person thinks that they're paying $150 a month when they're really paying an average of about $300 a month, we have a problem. Because then they're going to feel like solar is not worth it. So at that point, I get into and I explain to them that we go through their solar bill together. But this, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. This is after the PowerPoint presentation. So anyways, I let them know that we already looked at their bill, and based on their bill, we figured out how much electricity they're using and how much they're paying for that electricity. I get into about the families that I've helped go solar. Okay, a little bit about myself. Right? This is in the building of the rapport. Some of the things I will lean in on more. One of the things I lean in is on, what we've got going on out there in Mexico and this incredible group of people, how they went out there. And so to me, it's about letting the customer know that there's a triple win here. The customer wins, right? We win because this is our business, and the planet wins. And really there's a fourth win, right? Anybody in the company has the opportunity to donate to this foundation so we could help other people that are less fortunate, right? So I tell them a little bit about myself. I give them some bullet points. Obviously, the bullet points of you are going to vary. But for example, I ran into this Christian lady. I'm a Christian man. Obviously, I lean in on that, right? One of the things that I mentioned in my presentations is I say, now, for example, now that I am a father, I've got 2 kids, and especially if they have kids, they can relate. And if they do not have kids, guess what? Just somebody that has kids, just for some reason, they're more open. They just give more trust. Does that make sense? But one of the things that I say is, now that I have kids, I've got an 8-year-old. And by the way, I get into some minor details. I've got an 8-year-old and an 11-month-old. Matter of fact, my son, Alexander, the smallest one, he's 11 months today, right? I think a lot more of the earth, the planet that I'm leaving to my children. Right? One day I'm not going to be here, but I know that we're making a positive impact. And I think of those things a lot more now than I used to before. Okay. So I let them know, here's a question that I've got for you, Mr. Customer. Is there anything that you plan on doing that may increase the amount of electricity that you're using? Then I jog their memory. For example, are you planning on, expanding your property? Maybe adding central AC, pool, jacuzzi, electric vehicle, or anything of the sort? I let them answer the question. Throughout the presentation, I like to ask questions that are going to get the customer to say yes to me. I like to ask these questions to get them to say yes constantly. So does that make sense? Yes. Would you agree? Yes. I want to get them throughout the presentation in the habit of saying yes to me throughout the presentation. So I ask them this information. One of the things that's very popular right now is an electric vehicle, right? So an electric vehicle, and I let them know about these things because if the customer is thinking of getting an electric vehicle, obviously we have to offset for that. For every 10,000 miles that somebody drives, this is a key note. For every 10,000 miles that somebody drives, let's say they're going to get an EV. If they drive 10,000 miles per year and they charge a car at home only, I'm adding 3,000 kilowatt hours to the solar system. So I let the customer know, the reason why I ask this, Mr. Customer, is because I want to make sure that I don't only set you up for what you currently need. I want to make sure that I set you up properly for what you may need in the future. Does that make sense? Now the customer once again says, yes, that makes sense. I'm getting them used to this because at the end of the presentation, I want him or her to be used to saying yes over and over and over. That way, when it comes to asking for the sale, it's easier for them to say yes. Let me drink my coffee because coffee is for closers. So I let them know, here's a couple of reasons, Mr. Homeowner, why people are going solar. Number one, they want to save some money. As obviously we know that everything is going up right now. One of the things that's definitely going up is solar electricity rates, right? Remember this, facts tell, stories sell. Facts tell, stories sell. This is one of the best advice that I've gotten in sales. People love stories. People can relate with stories. One of the things I let people know is this, for example, here, especially if I sell a lot in California. So I let them know, for example, Edison here in California, Edison went up 9% in October. They went up another 8% in March. They went up 17% over the last less than 12 months, right? Now, there's a couple of reasons why. Number one, a lot of people are going solar. So what happens? They've always got more people going solar. Nobody's going from solar to the utility company. So as more people are going solar, they're losing money. So they've got to make that money somehow. Where do they make that money from, Mr. Customer? They make it from you. They charge you guys more money. Not only that, the grid is a very old grid. It's over 100 years old. There's constant maintenance and repairs that need to happen. Again, where's that money coming from? They have to charge you. So as more people go solar and the grid is it's not getting any younger, right? Constant maintenance and repairs, the price of electricity is going to continue to climb. That's why solar makes so much sense. As soon as solar is installed, you start saving money day one. I get into the rebates and incentives, right? And when I get into the rebates and incentives, I let them know that on the next slide, I'm going to get into the details of the rebates and incentives. Let me move this out the way because I can't see. I also let them know it's also better for the environment. I personally don't mention a whole lot about climate change. I personally don't. I just mentioned that it's better for the environment. There's some people that, you know, believe it or not, still don't believe in that. And so I don't really use those words so much. I just say that it's better for the environment. And then I do say a lot of cities and states now require solar by law. As a matter of fact, California being one of them. Ever since 2020, if you build a new home, it must be built with panels. You must put solar panels. It's the law. And by 2045, every home in California must have solar. So we're going in that direction. It isn't so much a matter of if, but more a matter of when you're going to go solar. And so, yeah, we'll get into that. So then we'll go to the next slide. I get into the federal tax credit. I let them know how it used to be 30%. It got extended through the end of 2022, 26%. And what I do at this time, I let them know, here's a reality. On average, it takes 45 to about 70 days for you to get installed. But if the permits take a long time, sometimes the cities may take 3 to 6 weeks to get us the permits. If something happens to go wrong right now, being that we're in the middle of the year, it is a very good time to go, because even if your job gets a little bit stalled, you know, we're pretty confident that we're going to get you installed more than likely before December 31st. But the longer you wait, if something goes on, what matters is when solar gets installed on your property. So you want to make sure you lock in that 26% versus a 22% federal tax credit. I get into a little bit about how utility prices have been going up. I asked a customer, I'm sure you've noticed that electricity prices are, have been going up. We've got a couple of pictures here of what's happening. And I elaborate a little bit more here. And I definitely read this last part, the top part that says, since 2003, national average utility prices have nearly doubled since 2003. And as a matter of fact, as of right now, I believe that number is officially doubled. Okay. I explained a little bit about how solar works. Again, I'm not going to get into a full presentation. My presentations are recorded. So I'm just kind of breezing through this information because I want to get into some information on the proposal. Okay. Here I explain the way that solar works, how the solar panels, how they have the inverter that converts that electricity into usable electricity, and they're still going to be connected to the grid, to their utility company. Therefore, they're still going to have a minimum connection fee to the grid. That fee may vary from $15 to $20, maybe even $30 in some occasions. I nowadays, this is a new slide that we added. We get into net metering 3.0, right? How the fees are going to go up, even for customers that have solar. So what we want to do is we want to get a customer grandfathered into net metering 2.0 because those fees are going to go up. So even going solar is still going to be more expensive because the utility companies are losing so much money from so many customers going solar. They say, hey, we want to make more money on them. So their fees are going to go up. By the way, somebody's unmuted. Please make sure that you mute your line. Make sure, Isela, that everybody's muted, please. And we just hit 100 people on this thing. So that's awesome. I think that's a limit if I'm not mistaken. All right, here we go. I just muted everybody. What happens if I sell my home? Okay, that's a very common question that homeowners have, right? The beautiful thing is about the loans that we offer now is that if you sell your home, the loan is fully transferable. So all of the benefits, all of the savings, all of the warranties get transferred over to the new homeowner. There's some old loans that used to put a lien on your property. So if you wanted to sell your property, if you wanted to refinance your property, you could not do that unless you first paid off the solar. That is not the case with our system. Simply the monthly payment gets transferred over. Here's a question that comes up sometimes. And I find that some new people get stuck on this sometimes. What if the new homeowner does not want, and by the way, I don't really let them ask me questions during the presentation. Usually when I start the presentation, let them know I'm going to go through a presentation. This presentation is going to answer a lot of the questions that you already have. It may also bring up a couple of questions afterwards as well. I'd be happy to answer those presentations after we go through this slide deck. So I'm kind of prepping the customer before we start that to save their questions for later because it's true. If not, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions along the way. But one of the questions that does come up is, what if I want to sell my home and the new homeowner does not want the solar panels? What I say to the customer there is I say, listen, I understand what you're saying. The way that I would treat it and the way that most people would treat it is a very simple solution. If they don't want your home with solar panels, maybe that's not the right home for them. Just like if your home had a pool, right? And if they don't want the pool that your home has, then maybe your pool home is not the right pool home for them. And not only that, Mr. Customer, as time goes on, solar becomes more and more desirable. So let's say in the next 5-10 years, you decide to sell your home, there's not going to be any federal tax credits. So somebody could either buy the house in with no help from the government, no tax credit, or they could buy a house that already has the solar panels that did take advantage of the tax credit, and it's a much better deal for them. But again, as time goes on, it just becomes more and more desirable. So I don't make it a big deal. I find just in general, even when I sign people up into the business, the $49, I don't make it a big deal. I make that a positive thing. I'm not going to get into that why, but the point is, if you don't make it a big deal, usually they won't make it a big deal, right? So it's just not the right home for them. Here's a couple of reasons why Powur, a little bit about our company. If you Google the Inc. 5000 list, the Inc. 500 list, we were number 61 out of the 500 fastest growing companies in America. Our company was number 61 last year. The year prior, we were number 938. So we're doing very, very well. We have a A+ with the Better Business Bureau, B certified corporation, 5 stars with Yelp, etc. One thing I do mention is this. I mentioned we have an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. We have 4.28 stars. It's not to say, Mr. Customer, that we don't have any complaints. We certainly do, right? You know, I don't think there's any company that does not have complaints. And frankly, I wish that our happy customers were as vocal as our unhappy customers. But, you know, we're doing over 1,000 installs per month. So the majority of our customers are happy. And but we do have some, you know, some people that may not be happy, which is normal, right? I like to address that. I like to address that we have 4.28 stars or whatever the case may be at the time, right? Because sometimes they do look into it and I kind of prep them for it. That's just something that I do. I'm transparent about it. And I also find that when I'm transparent about it, I started doing that and people very less often went to look at the Better Business Bureau. You know what I'm saying? I kind of put it out there. Yes, some customers are not happy. I mean, this is a part of doing business, right? We get into the warranties. One of the things that sets us aside, you know, apart from other companies, is that we offer you a 30-year extended warranty on your roof, parts, and labor. Now, one of the things I get into here is remember, facts tell, stories sell. One of the things I get into here often is I'll tell the customer the story of Solar City. Solar City, it recently came out probably like a year ago in the news, where customers of Solar City, because Solar City went bankrupt and got bought out by Tesla, their warranties were no good. So it came out in the news, a bunch of customers from Solar City complaining that their warranties were no good. So I let them know, for example, have you ever heard of a company called Solar City? Sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. I let them know back in about 2013 or 14 approximately, that was the most popular solar company out there. It was the biggest. You know, people thought it was too big to fail. Well, that company went bankrupt. So what happens is that the warranties are no good. It even came out in the news about a year ago. I could send you that clip if you'd like. Excuse me. So I let them know. Now, our company is a debt-free company. We're going public in the next 2 years. So we have a much different business model than them. And as you saw, we're the fastest growing solar company in the space. But God forbid something were to happen to our company, you are still covered by this third-party company, which is Solar Insure. It is a $10 billion AAA rated insurance company that covers your roof, parts, and labor. So again, if something were to happen to our company, you're still covered. You would not be in a situation the way that those customers for Solar City were. And this is one of the things that I have yet to find another company around here that offers a warranty like this. And certainly none of the big companies that you may have heard of offer you this warranty. Okay. And that is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen, because most of the big competitors that you're going to run into out there, they don't offer. I personally have found 2 companies that offer this, one in Florida, one in California. I was actually very surprised that the one in California, I found out about them 2 months ago. It's a deal I closed 2 months ago, and they offered Solar Insure, right? And they were leaning heavy on Solar Insure. The customer was super sold on Solar Insure, and we came out and guess what? We could offer the same thing. They offered them a 30-year 1.99 low with sunlight. I offered them the exact same thing. They offered them Eagle panels. I offered them REC 400 black on black panels. We got the deal, right? So anyways, I lean heavy on this. To me, this is a very, very big deal. I let them know that this is the proposal includes this 30-year extended warranty. I get into some of the jobs here, right? Again, facts tell, stories sell. Here's the standard panels, right? These are maybe some of the panels that you see very often. The majority of people that you may know have these panels. Usually they've got 340, 350 watt panels that have these, you know, white squares or white lines. The ones that I've got in your proposal, Mr. Customer, are like the ones on the right. They're black on black. As a matter of fact, the person on the right, that's actually a customer of mine. We actually did her roof and we did her solar panels, and her monthly payment was still less than what her payment to Edison was. Now, if I'm presenting to a customer, say in Florida or Texas, I may have left that part out, that their payment is going to be less, right? Because you guys in Florida and Texas are paying less per kilowatt, so the savings aren't as high. But you better believe that for customers in California, I lean on that. That's actually a customer of mine in the city of Whittier. You know, this client of mine and her husband had just bought their property. And after like 6 months, they realized, hey, man, our electricity bills are high, very high, a lot higher than we thought. And they need a new roof. So when they found out that we could give them their solar panels plus their roof, all for one low payment, one low interest rate, and it was still a smaller monthly payment than what they would be paying the utility companies, it was a no-brainer. So we put the panels on the roof and we, you know, switched off their roof as well. Again, I lean on the stories, and notice that my stories have details in them, right? I mentioned about the client and her husband. They had just bought the property. They were in there 6 months. We got a roof and solar panels, right? So, and then I left, because here's the deal. They've all seen the panels on the left. A lot of probably most clients think that the panels on the left are the panels that this is the way that a panel looks, and it is the way a panel looks. But nowadays, as you know, most companies are offering the black on black panels, but engraved in their mind, they think the panels look like the ones on the left. Okay, let's keep moving. I also let them know, and all of our customers, what we do for them is we actually make them an ambassador for us, right? So anybody that you end up referring to us, because when you decide to go solar, your neighbors, your family members, you know, people are going to ask you, how do you like your solar panels? Well, if we do a good enough job, we earn your business and we deliver on our promises to you, you're going to be very happy with our customers. And the majority of our referrals, the majority of our customers come from referrals. So anyways, we will give you a $1,000 referral fee for anybody that you send us that decides to go solar with us. and I give them another quick story. I'll give an example. I've got a customer, Elvira, out in Huntington Park, California. She actually referred me 5 family members that all went solar. She actually earned $5,000 in referral fees. So she's very happy and stuff. And she continues to send me people, but she's already sent me 5 that went through, and she earned $5,000. So now I'm painting a vision in their mind, right, of what's possible. And yes, they know that's true. People are going to see my panels. Family members are going to come out. People are going to know that I have solar panels, and they're going to ask me about it. And I could make $1,000 by referring this guy. That's pretty awesome. And then we finish with the different options. Option number 1. So, Mr. Customer, now that we're getting to the end of this presentation, there's really 2 options, right? Option 1, you can stick with your current utility company. We know that the rates are unpredictable. They're always going to go up. Lately, they've been going up 7 to 10% or more per year. And there's no value added to your home, right? And usually I do that, and I haven't brought up option number 2. Then I say, or option number 2, you can go solar. It's actually 0 out of pocket. It costs you nothing. There's no down payment or anything like that. You've got immediate savings, and you've got a tremendous amount of long-term savings. Plus, you can control. It's predictable what you're going to pay. And I'm going to show you that in the proposal here shortly. It also adds value to your home, right? There's some value that's added to your home. Why? Because you now have an asset, an energy-producing asset on your home, just for the same reasons that you bought your home, because you wanted to buy that asset. Well, buying your solar panels is also an asset, because that is something that you're always going to buy, and it's something that's always increasing in price, right? So then I say, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to bring up your proposal so we can see the numbers with your proposal, okay? And then I stop sharing the screen, and I pull up the proposal. So I'm going to pull up a proposal now. Give me a second. Let me pull one up. I actually did not have one ready, so I've got a bunch of tabs open though, so I'm going to just pick one here. Okay, here's a good one. Let's go here. So I've got a proposal here. This is actually down in California. This is where I lived. Okay, and this guy here this is a really good one. We haven't been able to lock this client down, but we will. Okay, let me let these couple of people in. Okay, so when I go and edit the proposal, people have different ways of doing it, right? What I like to do is I like to start off the proposal at 100% offset. Some people like to start it off at 15, 20% over. I like to start it at 100%. The reason why I start at 100% is simply because by starting it at 100%, I'm comparing apples to apples. It's a real number. So this client is paying about $550 per month, $550 per month. I would have liked to price this a little bit higher, but the mentee, he's actually an employee of mine for my credit repair company. And this is a broker of his, right? A real estate broker that sends him credit repair clients. So he wants to give them a stellar deal. Anyway, so this is, as you guys can see, it's a stellar deal. We're spoiled here in California. This guy's going to save $200,000 over the next 25 years by going solar. For a lot of you new guys and girls, you're going to see when it comes out, a lot of new people, they get scared. Why is the offset so high, and why is the monthly payment so high? That's because if you only need 20 panels, but the home fits 40, they're going to put all 40 panels on there. You've got to click on the edit button, and you got to come here and unclick these other panels that you don't need. The cool thing now, I don't like this new solo proposal. They just did some edits to it, but there are some things that are cool about it. You could click on a whole row like that, right? So I'm going to click it back. Okay. And I like to start it off at 100% offset. Let me go ahead and put this thing back. I kept one extra panel. So I like to sell it from the beginning at 100% offset so we compare apples to apples. We show them what they're currently paying. Now, before I even get into the numbers, I ask the customer when I'm over here, I say, Mr. Customer, if you had to guess what your average monthly payment is, right? We understand that summer months is going to be higher, other months it'll be lower, but your average, what you're paying on average monthly throughout the year, what would you guess that payment would be? See, I want to get to that answer because here's the deal. If this guy is paying $550 a month, but he tells me that he's paying $300 a month or $200 a month, we've got a problem. Now I got to open up his utility bill and I got to read the utility bill with him, right? I got to show him how many kilowatt hours he's using. Yes, indeed, I'm using that many kilowatt hours. Makes sense. That's what it says on my bill. Awesome. Now, Mr. Customer, let's see how much you are paying per kilowatt hour. So I take how many kilowatt hours they use that particular month, and I divide it by what they paid, right? What they paid that month. Now it shows you're paying 37 cents a kilowatt hour, or 35 cents, 30 cents, whatever the number may be. So when I enter that number in there, we first calculate, yes, indeed, you're using 18,000 kilowatt hours per year. The customer agrees. Awesome. And when we divided what you're paying by the kilowatt hours that you're using, we got 37 cents. Let's say, for example, it's 35 cents. So I'm going to edit this here. So we're going to go 35 cents because that's what you're paying on average. Sounds good. Boom. $525 per month. Now the customer sees with their own eyes. They agree. We are on the same page. Now, if he's paying 500, I'm going to put this back. If he's paying $555 per month, and I ask him, what would you say that you're paying on average? He tells me, about $600 a month. Great. I'll leave it at that. 550, $500, maybe 490, 480, right around there. We're close enough. I'm not going to go and read the bill with him. There's no need. We are on the same page. So when I get down to this section here, I say, what I'm going to show you, Mr. Customer, is 100% off. So this means we're showing you basically 1% more than you're currently using. So basically, we're comparing apples to apples. So you're currently paying right now, and when I do it on Zoom, I zoom in like this. What we calculate that you're paying is right around $550 per month. When I did not used to ask a question of what they think their average monthly payment is, when I would get to this section, sometimes I would get some pushback. Oh, no, that's not what I'm paying. Then I had to readjust. But because I already asked the question, and if I had to look at their bill with them, we are on the same page. So when I get here, I let them know, as you and I both agreed, you're paying about right around $550 a month, right? Yes, awesome. Now, here's what's interesting about what you're paying. As we mentioned in the presentation, Edison went up 17% in the last 12 months. I'm going to show you what's going to happen to your monthly payment if it only increases by 4% per month. Excuse me, not per month, per year. 4% per year, which is extremely conservative. We know it's going to go up a lot more than that. So I use this all the time. In 5 years, if your payment only increases, and notice when you're selling, the pauses, where you emphasize in certain sections and where you pause in certain sections, right? So if your payment only increases by 4% per month in 5 years, saw that pause? In 5 years, your average monthly payment is going to be about $674. In 10 years, it'll be about $819, and so on and so forth. 15 years, 20, 25. I don't explain every single one from 15 to 25. I just go 15, 20, 25, right? Now, for the same amount of electricity, if you decide to go solar, your monthly payment is going to be $163 per month, right? Instead of the 550. You're still going to have a connection fee to the grid. In this example, is calculating that you're going to be paying the grid roughly $60 per month, okay? But notice what you're doing. You're currently paying Edison, as we calculated together, 37 cents a kilowatt hour. You are now going to be producing your own electricity for 11 cents a kilowatt hour. And it's not going to increase over time. Your savings over the next 25 years, Mr. Customer, are going to be almost $200,000 over the next 25 years. Okay. Now, this is based on a 25-year loan with a 1.49 interest rate. Okay. The total loan amount here is $54,321. Now, here's what I do. Check this out, especially on customers like this. I take out the calculator, and you could share. Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see my calculator. Give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. So I say, here's what customers very often ask, and here's what I'd like to show you. What is your break even? How soon are you going to pay this money down? So it's $54,300 with a tax credit of $14,000. That means that your net system cost, John, is $40,000. Okay, that's after the government help tax credit. So if you're currently paying $555 per month and I multiply that by 12, and I have a pen, I always have a notepad and I have a pen. I've got this realtor that sends me notepads all the time. She says all the neighbors share notepads, which is, by the way, smart because people use these. I'm going to actually make these. I'm going to canvas my area. So I write that number down. You're paying 600. That's not a good number. 6,000. That's why you need to go solar, John. Let's say I say that's not a good number and John agrees. I would say that's why you need to go. So that's another reason why you need to go solar, John. Okay. $6,660 per year is what you're paying on average right now. Yes, indeed. Okay, awesome. So as we see here, your net cost after the tax credit, John, is $40,000. So here's what we do. 40,198 divided by 6,660 equals 6 years. What this means, John, is that in 6 years, you're going to be paying your utility company what the net system cost is regardless. So let's say you decide that solar is not for you. In the next 6 years, you're going to pay Edison the $40,000 if you decide not to go solar. And that is assuming, John, that your payment doesn't increase over time, which we know it will. So it's really about 4 to 4.5 years. In the next 4 to 4.5 years in your scenario, you're going to be paying what the net system costs. You're going to be paying that to Edison. Does that make sense? Again, I get him to say yes. Does that make sense? Yes. Now the guy is thinking, wait a minute. What this is costing me, I'm going to pay anyways. Now, granted, this is an extreme example. On average in California is 8 to 10 years. So if it's 8 years, I subtract 2 years. That means, John, that in the next 8 years, you're going to be paying Edison this much money. But that's assuming your payment doesn't increase, which we know it will. Can we agree? Yes. Again, I'm getting him to say yes. So when he says yes, so since it is going to increase, the number is not 8 years. It's actually about 6 years, maybe 6.5 years. The number is not really 10 years, it's more like 8 years, because we know that the utility companies are going to continue to increase what you're paying on. This is assuming that you continue paying this over the next 8 to 10 years. Okay. Then I get into the tax credit. I say, now, so here's the way it works. Notice how the $160 is broken down twice, right? You've got the first 18 months, and you got the next 18 months. Why does it break it down that way? Here's the reason why. Because the way it works is that the bank is expecting for you to go ahead and put the tax credit towards a loan over the next 18 months. So the $14,000, the bank is waiting for you to call them and say, hey, here's your $14,000 and put it towards a loan. But that is an option. It's not mandatory. But what happens, John, if you do not put the $14,000 towards the tax credit? Your payment's going to go up. Actually, before I click on it, I tell them, if you do not put your tax credit towards a loan, your payment is going to increase. What will it increase to? Then I click on the button. $222 a month. So you're going to go from 163. Let's say you keep the tax credit for whatever reason. You use it to remodel your kitchen. You use it to go on vacation. Whatever you want to do with that money. Let's say you do that. Your payment goes up to $222 per month on month 19, and from there, it will never go up. Here, very often, I will say another small story. Now, that tax credit, I'll give an example. I've got a customer that his tax credit was going to be about $9,000, $10,000, and he says, hey, JC, with that tax credit, you know, I have a credit card. I owe about $10,000. I'm paying interest only about $300 a month. What should I do? I said, look, I'm not a financial planner. I can't give you advice on what to do with that money, but I will tell you what I would do. What I would do is I would use that money to pay off that debt that you're paying $300 a month interest only, and your payment's going to go up $40. That's what I would do. But I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not a financial planner. The point is, you can do whatever you want with that, right? If you get that tax credit and you want to use it for something else, that's completely your option. But if you put it towards a loan, you know that your payment will be $163 over the next 25 years, right? I personally use Sunlight a lot. When I'm hitting them with this, and here's why. I lost a deal to a Powur rep. This is like, a year ago, because a Powur rep offered him the 20-year 0.49 option, and I didn't. That's the only reason why the client signed with another Powur rep, and I made a mistake. So here's what I do now. I say, again, John, this is on a 25-year 1.49. We also have a 20-year 0.49. Notice how I emphasize and slow it down. We have a 20-year 0.49, and we also have a 12-year 0% interest loan. If you'd like to see those, I'd be happy to show them to you. And I pause briefly. Right there is where the customer is either going to ask me or not, right? And then I get into, and then, you know, to finish off, John, your cost of staying with your utility company over the next 25 years is a conservative $275,000 versus $101,000 if you switch to solar. So your savings are tremendous. And here's the facts. More solar is going to be installed in the United States over the next 2 years than what has been over the last 40 years combined. I'm sure you notice as you drive around, you see a lot more homes that have solar panels. You know, again, it's not a matter of if, but when you're going solar. And your home going solar is also good for the environment. It actually offsets 9 tons of CO2 offset. It's the equivalent of you planting 301 trees. And yes, the value added to your home also increases. I don't usually mention that dollar amount of how much their value goes up, because that could be very, you know, different, especially in people's minds. So I don't really mention the 49,000 in this scenario. I just mention that the value of their home goes up. Okay, especially if you're talking to somebody in real estate, they will tend to challenge that amount a lot more often. So I just mentioned, and the value of your home also increases. They can look at what that number is, right? And then I go up here, and then I say, then I ask the closing questions. I say, so that's it on my end. Is there any questions that you have that I can help you get answered before we see if you qualify? See, I'm assuming the sale. Is there any questions that you have that I can help you get answered before we see if you qualify, right? And very often they might say, well, show me that, sorry guys, I skipped a step here too. I do mention, now John, this is 101% offset. As before I ask a closing question, I say this is 101% option. I never recommend, John, 101%. I'll tell you why. The reason why is because your solar, this part's very important, super important, super important. The reason why I don't recommend 100% offset is because of this. The reason why is because your solar panels, just like your TV, just like your computer, right? Just like your cell phone, over time, it doesn't work the same like it used to when it was new, right? Degradation. So your panels are going to lose anywhere from 0.5% to 1% per year production. That means that 10 years from now, you're not going to be producing that 100%. You're going to be producing 92 to 95%. So you're going to be buying that extra electricity from the utility company. You don't want to do that. I always recommend a minimum of 15% offset. I like to see you at about 20%. So let's see what the numbers would look like, right? If we decide to add a couple of panels. So then I go over here, I go to the proposal, and I add the panels, and I want to end up at right around a 20% offset. Okay, so let's say, for example, we have the panels. Okay. Okay, let's go 118, right? Okay, 122. So if we go and we add an extra 22%, extra 20%, 50%, whatever the number is, right? Your monthly payment is $197 after the tax credit. You're at $269, right? But what I already gave them the biggest wow factor when I showed them, which is true. I showed them an apples to apples comparison. This much electricity is what you're using. This is right around the same thing. Here are the differences. If you want to add more, here's what it is, right? Now, of course, I'm not considering them getting an electric vehicle or anything like that. If they're going to add an electric vehicle, I'm going to add, let's say 10,000 miles on an electric vehicle. I'm going to add the 3,000 kilowatt hours. Once I add the 3,000 kilowatt hours, then I add that 15 to 20% additional. And this obviously also adds and helps you make a bigger commission because you're selling them a bigger system, right? And so then after, anyways, long story short, once I sell them on the offset, then I will go in here and I will take the application, right? Now, I'm used to selling sunlight, but I didn't start selling sunlight. I started selling Good Leap. Sunlight, it's lately their customer service is taking longer and their qualification is not as easy. It's probably one of the hardest qualifications, right? My advice to new sellers, new tier 2s and even new tier 3s, Good Leap and Mosaic is what I would start with. If I was new, this is the information I would give you, right? What I do say is that this bank, Frank, they're simply asking for a 660 FICO score across all 3 FICO scores. That's what I say. That's not what the official FICO score requirement is. I want to make that clear, guys. That's not what the official FICO score requirement is. I'm telling you what I say. Here's why, because Sunlight says it's 650. I've had clients that I see their credit, they're at 650, they didn't qualify. What I tell the customer is, in order to qualify for this bank, John, they're looking for a 660 FICO score across all 3 FICO scores. That's what I say. When I say that, the customer will either let me know if they're confident about their credit score or they're not. Very often, I got a customer that will say, oh man, I got like a 640. I got like a 630 FICO score. I know I don't have that. I say, no problem. If that's the case, John, we have another bank that has a 600 FICO score requirement. The payment's going to go up a tad bit because their fees are different. Their fees are a little bit higher because of the interest rate, because of the FICO requirements being lower. But let's say, for example, we go with the same 25-year 1.49, and we go with this bank here. Let's see, instead of 197, you're looking at 201. So you went up $4, but this one here, 600 FICO scores worth they're looking for. Now look, hey, that's not bad. If I have to lower the margin, most of the time, if I have to lower and that's what's going to get me the deal, then I'll just lower it. But if not, most of the time I will not lower the margin. They understand it's a couple bucks more because my credit isn't up to par. That's fine. So I'll mention, because I sell Sunlight so much, I'll mention that is a 660 FICO score across all 3 FICO scores. Because again, I've shot myself in the foot telling people 650. I don't do that anymore. This is just the way that I do business. I'm sure some mentors don't do that. I'm sure that some mentors, tell them 650. I don't do that. And it's worked out well for me. And that's where the customers come in very confident, not very confident. The problem is if they want to go with the 12-year loan, 0%, that's the only bank that offers it, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I just sold a customer, I think it was 12 years, 1% with this bank, Mosaic, let's see. Or what was it? It was a 15 years, 1%. He went from 12 years, 0% to 15 years, 1%. His payment was lower with this one. I'm like, look, there's no prepayment penalties. So even if you go with the bigger loan, Mike, let's say you go with the bigger loan, right? 25 years instead of 12, there's no prepayment penalties. So if you want to pay off the system earlier, go ahead and pay it off earlier, and you can still pay it off in those 12 years, but you have a comfortable small monthly payment that is very easy to do, right? And I ask for the same. So, all right, let's open this up for some questions. And yes, Sunlight is a hard credit check. Feel free to unmute yourselves and let's ask some questions, but we can wrap this up for the next 10 minutes.
So JC, it's Nita. How are you today?
Hey, Nisa. Good. How are you?
My question was the kilowatts that you're using for the electric vehicles. You were saying that it was a 10,000 miles. You would add 3,000 kilowatts.
Yes. So let's say they've got an electric vehicle that they drive. Now, here's the deal. They drive 10,000 miles, right? 10,000 miles per year, and they only charge it at home. So they need to fulfill those miles at home. Then you add 3,000 kilowatt hours to the system. What if they tell you, and I ask them, how many miles are you going to drive? They tell me 10,000, whatever. If they tell me 12,000, I just add 20% to the 3,000 kilowatt hours. That makes sense? So it'd be 3,600 for 12,000. So you do the math. It's easy to base it on 10,000. 3,000 kilowatt hours per 10,000 miles they drive. So what if they drive 20? Well, you double it. If they drive 15, well, you add another 1,500 to it. So the math becomes easy by doing it that way. Another question I ask is, are you planning on only charging your vehicle at home, or are you going to also charge it somewhere else, for example, at work or something like that? If they sometimes they'll tell you, yes, there's an electric vehicle charging station at my work. So I would say half of the time I'm going to be charging it there. Okay, great. Then maybe we don't need to put enough for the 10,000 at your home, because as you say, you're going to be charging at work. So we can put enough for 5,000 kilowatt hours there. And then it helps them have a smaller system and a smaller monthly payment. One thing I do talk about, even when people don't have an electric vehicle, but they tell me they're going to get it, I say, how many miles do you drive a year? 15,000 miles a year. What would you say you spend on gas now? And I've got my notepad when I'm doing a presentation. Oh man, I'm spending $400 on gas per month, right? Whatever the number is, I write it down. So when I add the, 4,500 kilowatt hours extra to the proposal and the payment goes up, $50, $70, I say your payment went up $70 instead of you, but you're offsetting $400 per month. So that's actually saving about $350 per month.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, JC, I have a question. This is Barry from Anaheim Hills. How are you?
What's up, Barry?
If you're doing a presentation and you did it without a battery and all of a sudden they say, well, let's see what it looks like with a battery. I understand there's a way to pause the screen share while you're making those changes so that they don't see the margin changes, and then resume the screen share without, actually going off screen share altogether. How would you do that?
Oh, I just stopped sharing the screen, bro. I say, okay, sounds good. Give me a second. I need to enter my system and add the battery. 1 second.
So you stop it altogether?
I stop it altogether. Yeah, I don't make it a big deal. I stop it all together and I just add or not add the battery. Yep. Here's one thing that I want to do. I want to do a roll call. Those of you mentors that I asked to come on here. Okay, I've got some questions for you. So we've got Anthony, Isela. Okay, Justin, I want to ask you guys some questions. We're going to go another 10 minutes, team, and then we're going to be done. Okay, and you guys could ask these questions anyways, but I want to bring up these mentors, David Perez, Isela, Jacob, Andrew, Anthony. I want to bring them up because I also want them to, Varia, Robert Hollis, I want them to help me out with these questions. So you guys, please go ahead and unmute yourselves. And I want to, not only do I want you guys to also give like a 1 minute introduction to yourself and maybe, take another minute to give a tip if you want. But I also want you guys to help me out with answering some of these questions. I'd like for people to hear from you guys as well. Do I have any of you guys on here?
I can go first.
Go for it.
Good morning, everybody. Stella Bonada here, live from Downey, California. One of the things that I've learned is I like to talk to the homeowner and ask questions like, is this the first time you've looked into solar? What's your curiosity behind solar? If you looked into solar, why didn't you go solar at that time? A lot of times. So I try to really talk to them before I even go into the presentation at all. Interesting enough, this Saturday, it was kind of like a coffee table sort of conversation, and I never even hit the presentation, went straight to the proposal and then closed it. But it just, because I talked to them, they had an appointment, Sunrun came, they came, they did the drone video and they left and they never came back. So this family was ready to go. So I kind of really tried to have a conversation before I even touch their bill. And then sometimes I'll hit their bill first and go over some of the amounts, especially if it's a really high bill. And then I'll go into the presentation and ask them if it's okay, if I can go into the presentation. I like to show them a couple of slides and then I go into it. So.
And you know what, to your point, Isela, that is a great point. When I deal with customers that have already had other presentations, or let's say, for example, it's a real estate broker that has a big old house. This happened recently, this exact thing happened. This real estate broker, he had looked into real estate in the past, into solar in the past. And he was interested in solar, but it was hard to get an appointment with him and he didn't have a whole lot of time. So with people like that, I go, I cut to the chase, as our friends in Hollywood say, right? I say, sounds good, Isela. I know that you're a very busy woman, just like we are as well. Normally what I do, Isela, is I go through about a 13, 14 slide educational PowerPoint. Then I get into the proposal. Would you like me to get into that proposal, into that PowerPoint, or would you like me to just jump into the proposal and jump into the numbers? Then they'll tell you, hey, jump into the numbers, right? Explain unlimited all the time. And let me tell you something. I would say that my closing ratio, if it's not the same in scenarios like that, it's better. Because here's the thing about it. You also have to be able to read people. You understand? And after time of doing this so often, you'll be able to read some people. And who are the people that want to cut to the chase, right? Some people, they just want to know a couple of basic things. Am I going to save money? Is this worth it? What is the interest rate? How much money is this saving me, right? The red personality, and I have a training on this. The red personality is get to the point, show me the numbers personality, right? I have a training in my podcast on the 4 personality types. Right, I get into that. I do an in-depth training, and we find out where your personality is. So I reckon, and I'm going to be doing a training on that soon, but when you're able to identify these people, it certainly helps to go out there and do it. So anyways, Rafael Palomino.
Hey, you guys hear me?
Yes.
I think you touched on a good point just now. I think that ties into discovery, right? And whether it's the consultant that does it or me as the mentor, I think it's very important to spend those few minutes, whether it's building a rapport, but also fact finding, right? Where does the homeowner work? If you can ask them or through the consultant, but I like to find out things of that point towards how good is their credit, and you find that out by asking questions about where they work or their kids. Do you have kids in college and things like that, just to find out what their expenses are. What do you guys do for vacation? Questions like that. When they say, hey, they just went to Hawaii a few months ago or last year they were in Europe, you can kind of already lean towards this person probably has decent credit, things like that. But then there's a couple small things, right? You talked about things that kind of came up and held us back in the beginning. I was one of JC's first recruits when he first started, and I'm grateful for that. But like having all decision makers present, making sure both the husband and the wife or whoever's going to be involved in the decisions, usually whoever helps pay the bill, the utility bill, making sure they're on board with solar. And yeah, so the discovery, whether it's the consultant doing it, myself doing it, that's always been a big plus. You hate to go through the whole presentation and they find out, they later find out they've got like a 550 credit and they've already asked all their friends to co-sign and so yeah, those types of things are important.
Yes, interesting you say that too, Rafael. June 26, 2020, I just want to give a big shout out to Rafael Palomino on his first deal with Powur. Our team is at over 15 deals this month. Great job, brother. That was 2 years ago yesterday.
Nice.
And that was your first deal, bro. And now you've got a bunch of deals. You're a very successful mentor in the platform. I appreciate you, man.
That was good enough. Thank you.
JC, I wanted to add on since we're touching on the discovery call.
Yeah,
and
please.
Congratulations, Rafael. To add on to Isela and what Rafael said, so in the beginning, when I was new 2 years ago, obviously I didn't do physical discovery calls where I'm calling my potential client because they have a lot of questions, panels, financing, and so many, right? So instead of me getting stuck on these questions and saying, let me get back to you, let me talk to my mentor, what I used to do was I used to text my potential clients the discovery call questions to keep it simple. I would either text them or email it to them. And the reason I used to do that, the main things that I would collect from my clients to assign a mentor was the utility bill and a picture of the main electrical box, the service panel. But when I started collecting these discovery call questions, and I did a training on it 2 weeks ago with Jonathan, I'll put the link here. I was able to help my mentor create a better lead and also help my mentor be able to create the proposal a lot better when I found out what the age of the roof was, HOA committee and all that, right? But now, as you could say, a solar pro, for those who are looking to be solar consultants and mentors, I mean, if you, like Rafael and Isela were saying, if you learn how to do a discovery call with your clients, just doing that extra 5-minute, 10-minute phone call with your client before having the presentation, I think it builds a little bit more rapport of spending that time with them, and they appreciate that. And you get to, again, create a better proposal for them, finding out what their needs are, of why they want to go solar. That's what I wanted to add on.
Ramsey, what do you got, man? New mentor Ramsey in Florida, crushing it. One of the best people on the platform, man. This guy's awesome. What do you got for us, Ramsey?
Thank you for that, JC. I learned from the best, and this is the best right here. So I like to be a problem solver and then a problem finder first. Okay, so I want to look for a problem and then I want to be a problem solver. So I want to ask questions and I want to be human with them. I want to be real. And I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto. I don't know if you can see that, but it's incredible, by Blair Ains. And it talks about just really coming from a place of not indifference, but just seeing, is there a problem to be solved, and going from that and analyzing what it is that their needs are, what they want to do, and touching on what everyone said prior to me. It's just make it about the customer and the client. Don't think about commission. Don't think about making a sale. Think about how can you serve and help the client that's in front of you as if it was your mother, your father, your brother. So when I go in with that mindset and I just tell myself I'm here to be of service and of value, and my goal is to actually help this client any way possible, that gives me kind of like an ease to just flow with them. And when we have that rapport and commonality and we're having fun and we're laughing, you know, their stress levels are down. Okay, so when we're in fight or flight mode and we're stressed and we're anxious about certain questions that are asked or that are not asked, you know, that's when we start triggering our amygdala and our reptilian brain. So what I like to do is just kind of see if there's a problem first, and be honest, if there's not a problem that I can solve, or for some reason I can't take care of them, just let them know that, you know, I can't help you for whatever reason, but I'm still here to be a tool for you and help anyone that you may know. And then I pivot into, you know, ambassador or potentially consultant. I've gotten consultants like that, but that's kind of how I go from it. And I'm learning. I'm relatively new in solar, so I'm just trying to be a sponge and always learning.
I love it. I love it. Appreciate that, Ramsey. David Perez, I think you're currently this month or last month number 5 in the company. I want to hear from David Perez. What do you got, bro?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Can you guys hear me, JC?
I want to know how you're closing so many deals. I want to know what is some advice you would give people here to get to tier 2 and to tier 3.
I would say like the first key is, I see this in the team. I think a lot of us, when we come on, we try to learn so much about solar that it could be a little overwhelming. Keep it really simple and just learn the basics, which is sales. Like, this is sales overall. I think where you see a lot of individuals where they come in and they start having success, like JC, Luis Perez, myself, and a lot of the other great mentors, like, you got to keep in mind, we've been doing sales for a long time. And so instead of like dedicating a lot of time to learning all kinds of product knowledge, I would dedicate more time to like learning how to like pitch, whether, you know, how to pitch, how to generate leads, how to, you know, just sales in general. You know, like when you get somebody call you, when someone calls you like, hey, you do solar, and they call you, just knowing like how to handle that call, real simple, where you're not stuttering or you're not getting nervous, and that comes through repetition and practice. So I would say, instead of focusing more on learning about solar, just grow in sales as a professional. That would be my number one tip.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of merit in what you said. Yes, we have to know about solar, but too many people spend too much time, and this is what we call paralysis by analysis, right? They want to know everything before they do anything. Here's some of the best advice that I can give you, especially for new people. Get the interest, get the bill, get the appointment. Let the mentor do the sales for you. Plug into the trainings in the meantime. But I would much rather, because here's the thing, and a lot of people have been very complimentary of me, and I think I'm in the top 100 in the company for selling solar, but I'm not the number 1 solar sales guy here. And let me tell you something, I'm proud that I'm not. Let me tell you why. If I was the most knowledgeable, people think I've got to be the most knowledgeable. If I was a best solar salesperson, people are going to think I got to be the best solar salesperson and be successful. But when I tell them, hey man, I just stick to the fundamentals. I do this presentation. I don't know it, you know, I don't know every damn roof type. I don't know every damn electrical panel type. I don't know as many. Isela knows more about inverters and about the basics of solar than I do. I'm telling you, man, just like when I was in network marketing, we used to sell healthy products, right? Like a healthy coffee with Ganoderma and all that stuff. The guys and girls that knew how many phytonutrients and antioxidants were in every product, they were not the ones making the most money. You know who it was? It was the builders. Those people in this business that are able to find customers to sit in front of and to share the information, to use a third-party person to help them close a sale. Then they learn along the way. You don't have to be a solar expert. That's why you have the mentor program. And another tip that I'm going to give you is the following. You have to understand that after 3 sales, most people, you're not going to be ready to sell on your own. Just because you're able to sell on your own after 3 sales doesn't mean you should sell on your own. Just like, oh, I just bought a $1,000 belt because it's my birthday, but I can't afford it. Just because you could buy it doesn't mean you could afford it, right? I know that I'm getting into a different subject, but just because you are a tier 2 doesn't mean that you should necessarily be selling. For some of you. Some of you guys are more than ready. So I would say, hey, leverage the mentor program as best as you can. But some of the best paid activity you could do is you give me somebody that's able to put people in front of the presentation with a mentor. That person's going to make way more money than the person that is dissecting all the details of every single panel and inverter and all this other technical stuff. So yes, I agree with David 100%, man. And anybody else? Anybody else? Any mentor? I want to hear from a mentor. What is some mentors that want to come out here and give us some advice?
AJC. My name is AJ. I just recently become a mentor from San Jose, California. And what I do first with a customer is that this may be, unconventional, but I show the proposal first. I show the numbers first, but I don't spend a lot of time on it. I just show them like what they're gonna pay for their new monthly payment when it comes to solar. And the reason why I do that is because we look, to be honest, we literally are the best solar company in America. You know what I mean? So by showing the numbers first, but showing how much it's gonna cost, is gonna build value throughout everything you're gonna say. If that makes sense. Like before, like how I see is that before I used to show the proposal and the presentation, they would be so enamored by how good the value is, but they're still thinking, okay, how much is it gonna cost? Okay, how much is it gonna cost? Okay, how much is it gonna cost? So what I do is I show it in the beginning first, and then I go towards the presentation. Like, oh, okay, that does makes a lot of sense that this value is what it is. So that's why I do it.
Interesting approach. I never heard that, but it's clearly working for you, bro. So
yes, sir.
Keep doing your thing, man. Keep doing your thing. All right. Anybody else before we close this off? Anybody else want to close this off? Some closing thoughts.
I'll say one more thing for if you guys got a few more seconds.
Yes, go ahead.
Since David touched on and Bonilla talked on this topic of sales and learning sales and whatnot, I think something very, very basic as it comes to people that are maybe brand new to sales is realizing that there are usually about 4 personality types when it comes to the customer. So I think it's key to figure out very early what type of customer, what type of personality do you have in front of you, right? Are they an alpha? Are they, the 4 personalities, the way I learned them is that there's a shark, there's a whale, there's a dolphin, and there's a sea urchin. There's some people that are very organized, right? The sea urchin, they want things spelled out to them in chronological order, step by step. There's the whale, like the school teacher, that's very loving and caring, and they want to be approached. You hit their emotions that way. Then there's the shark, who's the alpha person that they just want to be felt like they're in control. And there's tactful ways to do that, where you let them feel like they're in control, but at the same time, you're just kind of leaving breadcrumbs all the way to the sale. There's a bunch of books and things online, but I think that's key is like early on, know what type of personality type you have in front of you, and then just cater to them. It'll make things very, very smooth, and you'll be less likely to run into like an impasse or a personality clash.
I love that. Hey, I'm gonna save the best for last. Information, not speaker. I'm not referring to speaker. The events that I'm promoting, the Power World goes without saying, guys. If you want to be successful, you got to be a Power World. There's no reason not to be a Power World. You got to figure out how to get to Power World. All of the top mentors in the Success Leaves Clues, the top mentors, the top income earners will be at Power World. Guaranteed. I'm telling you, Success Leaves Clues. You want to be successful, do what successful people do, and you'll get what they get, right? You want to be unsuccessful, do what unsuccessful people do, and you'll get what they got. So Power World. Those of you guys that work with me, I'm going to be off tomorrow. So is anybody that works with me directly. We're not going to be available tomorrow. So if you need me, reach out to me today. Okay, because tomorrow I am going to be off all day. I'll be back Wednesday. But I'll be working all day today. Next thing is we've got a Super Saturday coming in August. Marissa, are you here? Marissa and I are going to be hosting this Super Saturday. And so what is the date again, Marissa?
It is August 13th.
August 13th, Super Saturday here in California. To touch on what Rafael said, I'm going to be training on the personality types. Anybody that shows up to this training, you're going to be taking a test that day. We're going to figure out what your 2 dominant personality types are. And I'm going to be training on how to read people, even from when you shake their hand, how to read that person's personality type. So you see what triggers him. You see what motivates him. You see what buttons to press and what buttons not to press. For example, reds, which are the sharks, are irritated by the greens, which are the urchins. The very analytical people and the very money motivated driven people, they don't combine. They're like oil and water, right? I'm a shark big time, right? So if somebody wants to ask me a million technical questions, I send them to Isela, or I send them to somebody like Ramsey and stuff that, you know, he's a super sweet guy. He's got the patience for people and whatnot. And so I'm going to be on that particular day. You want to make sure that, you know, you mark your calendar down. That's going to be after the convention. Guess what? We're going to have some news from the convention. But those of you guys that go to convention are going to be 18 months ahead of people that don't go to that convention. I'll leave you with this. The biggest earners have the biggest belief. There's no other event that builds bigger belief than the national convention. By far, your belief level, the training you're going to get, being in that environment, your proximity will determine your success in life. You want to be in the proximity of winners. And let me tell you something, it's only going to be winners at Power World. So trust me when I tell you, you want to get to that event. And then August 13th, we're going to follow it up with a Powerhouse Super Saturday business presentation. We're going to go about 4 or 5 hours of training. And it's going to be Marissa and I, we're going to be hosting that event at the Embassy Suites in Downey, California. It's more than likely where it's going to be. We still got to confirm that. So anyways, Power World, let's get you guys registered. Remember that tomorrow's Jonathan Brunazos. Here's what you want to do. Mondays at 10 a.m., this is a call you add. Tuesdays at 10 a.m., that's a call you add. And as you're building a team, make this the culture. This is the norm. Mondays and Tuesdays, you start off the week with training, with the right proximity, with the right information. That is the norm, okay? And then remember, make sure that you guys are registered for solarheroestraining.com. There's a lot of great training there. It's all in modules. Anyways, I appreciate you guys, okay? And we'll talk soon. We got to get going. Thank you.
Thanks, JC.
Brother.